You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program.
And greetings and happy Friday. Excuse me, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Boy, is it hot. And the job numbers are out today. Let's check in with Bernie and find out what's going on. It's the first hour of our program. It's our national town hall meeting. Senator Bernie Sanders will be taking your calls in just a few minutes here at 866-987-THOM. Hey, Bernie, how's everything in Vermont? Bernie? Oh, I got to push the button. I'm sorry. Senator, my apologies.
All right.
I thought you were, I had forgotten that we were doing this on the telephone.
And I'm back in Vermont, and it's really great to be back here for a week. It's a lot of fun.
Great. So your thoughts on the job numbers that came out and
Well, the job numbers are not good. And if you add in those people who are living in high unemployment areas who have given up looking for work, and those people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time, what you're really talking about is unemployment of close to 15%, and that is a disaster. And if you look at it, young people, people of color, the numbers are much higher than that. And it just speaks to the fact that while our Republican friends obstruct, the reality is we have got to be very, very aggressive in creating the millions of jobs that this country desperately needs. Now, the good news is that last week we passed a very modest, but we did pass it, a transportation bill, which will keep well over 1 million jobs and create another 1 million jobs. But it was nowhere near as much as we have to do. That bill was focused. It was a 2-year bill focused on, it was 27 months actually, focused on roads, which certainly need a lot of attention, bridges, which need a lot of attention, and public transportation. But there's so much more in infrastructure that we have to deal with. We have to deal with rail. We have to deal with water systems, with wastewater plants, with cell phone service, broadband, deteriorating schools. But we made a start. The Republicans in the House dragged their feet. I think we lost some of the construction season as a result of that, but at least we did finally get that passed. But bottom line is we need, in my view, to create millions of jobs, and one way you do that is by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. And when we do that, we can create a whole lot of jobs. I think in many parts of the country, people are now getting a glimpse of what global warming looks like. You're seeing these terrible, terrible forest fires and dryness in Colorado. You're seeing drought in the Midwest, which is going to drive up the price of food. You're seeing extreme weather disturbances. And meanwhile, back in the halls of Congress, we have one political party that refuses to acknowledge what virtually all scientists agree on, that global warming is real, that global warming is significantly man-made, and that global warming is already causing billions and billions of dollars in damage in our country and all over the world. And we're seeing that right now, up front, big time. And yet we can't even get a serious debate about acknowledging global warming, let alone how you proceed. But as I have pointed out many times, as we move toward transforming our energy system away from fossil fuels like coal and oil into sustainable energy like wind, solar, geothermal, and biomass, as we move forward in terms of energy efficiency, getting cars that get 55 miles per gallon on average, which we will in the year 2025, rather than where we're at right now, as you weatherize buildings so that we, both in terms of maintaining heat and coolness for air conditioning, you not only help us, we move forward in the battle to reverse global warming, but we also create millions more jobs. So protecting the environment is a job creator, in my view. And lastly, in terms of jobs, it is astounding to me, Tom, you and I have talked about this for years, despite all of the evidence about our unfettered free trade policies, we still have virtually every Republican and many Democrats who say, yeah, let's keep it going. Let's more unfettered free trade. We've only lost 60,000 factories in the last 10 years. I guess we can do even better than that. Let's throw millions more people onto the sidewalks as we do away with the manufacturing sector in America. So those are some of the areas that we have got to move forward on if we're serious about creating the jobs that this country desperately needs. The other issue that I urge people to follow very, very, very closely is this whole debate on deficit reduction. I fear, and we're active in this fight. I'm chairman of a committee called the Defending Social Security Caucus. And what I'm worried about is that despite the fact that the current deficit was caused by Bush's wars in Iran and Afghanistan, which they simply forgot to pay for, huge tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country, which they forgot to offset, this terrible recession, which was caused by the greed and recklessness and illegal behavior on Wall Street, which has resulted in substantially less revenue coming into the federal government, that our Republican friends and some Democrats think the way to move forward to a deficit reduction is to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, education, food stamps, you name it, any program which benefits working families. I hope that most listeners understand that in terms of Social Security has not really contributed one nickel to the deficit because it is funded by the payroll tax, not the general treasury. Social Security has a $2.7 trillion surplus. Social Security can pay out every benefit for the next 22 years. The struggle against Social Security has nothing to do with deficit reduction. What it has everything to do with is an ideological struggle that Republicans have been waging from years and years and years back. They don't like Social Security because Social Security is a government program that works. In a cost-effective way, we have managed to pay out every benefit owed to every eligible American for the last 75-plus years. That is a pretty good record.
Yeah.
And that's what they don't like, so they want to destroy Social Security. Medicare, you know, what Romney is talking about, what the Ryan budget is about, and everybody has got to know this, is ending Medicare as it is right now, converting it into a voucher plan. So if you are old, they're going to give you a check, maybe $7,000, maybe $8,000. And if you've got cancer and you've got a heart disease or you've got any serious illness, you tell me how long $7,000 or $8,000 worth of insurance is going to get you through a private insurance company. It'll get you a couple of days in the hospital, and then you are on your own. And then when you cut Medicaid, it means not only throwing large numbers of children off of the Children's Health Insurance Program and lower income people. Many people do not know they have their parents, their mom, their dad is in a nursing home, and they don't know who's paying for it. Well, I'll tell you who's paying for it. In many cases, it's Medicaid. Medicaid is certainly the largest payer of nursing home care in this country. So if you got a parent who's in a nursing home and they cut Medicaid, guess who's going to pick up that bill? You are.
That must be why when my mom was toward the end of her life, my brothers basically, they had to spend everything she had before she qualified for medical services, even though she was over 65.
Right. That's exactly right. Now, be that as it may, that is what happens. People get Medicaid for their parents in nursing homes. And nursing homes are a very expensive proposition. But my point is sometimes people say, well, you know, that's for somebody else. It's not for me. You know, we had a call on this show last month from a very nice lady in Texas, I believe, rural Texas. And she said, you know, government is interfering in Medicare. Well, guess what? Medicare is a government program. Millions of people don't know that.
Yeah.
So I think what this campaign, you know, getting, you know, into the campaign, if people understand what our right-wing Republican friends and what Governor Romney are talking about, it will be hard for me to see how they're going to win the election. But we've got to do a better job in exposing that.
Absolutely. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Up next, your calls with Senator Sanders, our national town hall meeting. Check out Bernie's website, by the way, sanders.senate.gov. We'll be right back with your calls for the Senator.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And, of course, we've got a free iPhone and iPad app. We have the daily stack of everything we talk about every day. All of that all for free over at ThomHartmann.com. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And, Bernie, you're still on the line, right?
Right here.
Okay. Laurel in Adrian, Minnesota. Am I pronouncing that right?
Laurel.
Laurel. Okay, you are on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Yes, Thanks for taking my call first. I feel honored. I got a call this morning about the results of my stress test, and the receptionist said I needed an angioplasty. And she stated that we'll go ahead and call your insurance and let you know after you've been pre-approved whether we'll schedule a date and time for the appointment. And I had to tell her, the receptionist, I don't have health insurance. It doesn't matter that I work 52 hours a week. Granted, it's a combination of a couple of part-time jobs, but I want to ask the senator, how can I be working 52 hours a week and not be able to afford health insurance?
Well, the story you are telling is a story that goes from California to Maine. It's millions and millions of people. It's 50 million people who work, in many cases, extremely hard. You're working 52 hours a week. And what we are seeing is that in the private sector, more and more employers, for a variety of reasons, are not providing health insurance. So here's where we're at. 50 million people uninsured. We pay almost twice as much per person for health care as do the people of any other nation. Let me tell you a story, and it's not radically, it's a different story than Laurel just told us, but it has a much worse ending than I want to see for Laurel. Saw a woman in Vermont a couple of weeks ago, and she said, Bernie, my sister had a terrible cough. We thought it was bronchitis. She lived in Florida, I believe. And she was just coughing and coughing for a whole year. She just couldn't get rid of this bronchitis. She didn't have any health insurance. Finally, she decided that she was going to go to the doctor. She walked into the doctor's office. The doctor said, you don't have bronchitis. You have cancer. She was dead a short time afterwards. Tom, this happens some 45,000 times a year. People die because they don't go into the doctor's office when they should.
Yeah.
What also happens is people end up in the emergency room, which is 10 times more than a visit to a primary care physician's office, certainly in a community health center. What happens is that people end up in hospital much sicker than they should have been if they got proper health care when they needed it. What happens is 20, 30, 40%, we don't know exactly, of the people who walk into a doctor's office and get a prescription prescribed to them cannot afford to fill that prescription. And then you have people around in the United States Senate and Congress who talk about this being the best health care system in the world. Right. Yeah, no doubt. If you are very, very wealthy, it is the best health care system in the world. But if you're middle class, if you're working class, if you're lower income, it certainly is not. And that is why I have believed forever, since I've been involved in politics, that the United States has got to join the rest of the industrialized world and fight for a national health care system which guarantees health care to all people as a right. And the irony here is that when you move in that direction and you have a cost-effective system, rather than the bureaucratic, wasteful system we have now, which is geared toward profits for the insurance company, which then has to engender an enormous amount of bureaucracy and paperwork, we can provide health care to all people without spending any more than we're currently spending right now. So this is a moral issue, and it is an economic issue, and I hope my state of Vermont will lead this country into a Medicare for all single-payer system.
Yeah, and I think it may well. It may well.
We're working hard on it.
Yep. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. Back with more of your calls for Bernie. Stick around.
Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, taking back the mainstream media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls. And Corky in Rochester, New York, you are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello, Senator, my hero.
Hi, Corky.
I'd love to see you get on that Senate floor and start beating this puppy. The American people haven't had a raise for 30 years. Come on, what don't they understand? There's no jobs because there's no demand.
Right.
Wealth doesn't create jobs. Tax breaks don't create jobs. Demand creates jobs. And that's the only thing that does.
Well, Corky, I agree with you. And the point that Corky is making, and I want everybody to understand because it's a very, very important point, is that if working people, if the vast majority of the American people do not have money to spend, we're not going to create jobs. If they're not out buying appliances, if they're not out going to restaurants, if they're not out doing this and they're not out doing that, we are not going to create the jobs that we need. And the problem we have right now is we have more and more and more income and wealth inequality in this country. And I want to just give you a fact, Corky, that we don't talk about enough, media doesn't talk about enough, and that is what we're looking at right now is this is really quite unbelievable. The top 1% of Americans owns 40% of the wealth. The bottom 60% of Americans owns less than 2% of the wealth. The bottom 40% of Americans own just 0.3% of the wealth of this country.
It's astounding.
So the people on top have got it virtually all, and there is a limit. I think this is Corky's point, to how many yachts and planes and big homes they can buy. And if you want to stimulate the economy, if you want the middle class to be turned around and grow rather than shrink, you're going to have to put money into the hands of working families. So that means better wages, decent paying jobs, and full employment, not the austerity that we're seeing right now. So the concentration of wealth and income, in which so few have so much, while so many have so little, is not only morally obnoxious, but it is bad economics if we're serious about turning this economy around.
Larry in Rochester, Minnesota. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi. Privileged to talk to Bernie and you. Hey, I was listening to Bernie talking about all these governors that are turning down Medicaid help in their states.
Mm-hmm.
I think there should be tried for premeditated murder.
Well, I'll tell you something, Larry. I think when, the sad reality is that there are a whole lot of people in this country who, for whatever reason, really don't have a full sense of what's going on in this country. But when they find out that this big, bad, terrible health care reform bill, so-called Obamacare, is going to expand Medicaid to the tune of some 30 million people. That's a lot of people. And in fact, the federal government is going to pick up the cost of that. I believe it's 100%, I believe, for the first 3 years.
That's right.
And then something like 90 or 95% in the following years. And people are sitting here saying, you mean to say the federal government is prepared to provide health insurance for more kids, for more working families, and you, Governor, and it's not going to cost the state a nickel, and you, Governor, are going to turn that down? Well, what Larry just said is right. There are people who are in desperate need of health care who are not going to be able to get that health care. I have not the slightest doubt that some of those people will die or will become much sicker than they should because of that governor's decision. And I think, actually, the degree to which people understand that reality. Governors can't go on and say, well, it's going to cost our state a fortune. Well, guess what? It's not. Federal government's picking up the cost for that expansion to the tune of 100%. And then it's going to go down, but 90% is nothing to sneeze at either. So if governors want to reject it, I would hope that the people of their states will say, excuse me, that is not acceptable.
James in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Senator. This is James in Uniontown, Pennsylvania.
Hi, James.
Hey, the question is, how is the federal government going to pay for the Affordable Health Care Act, what you just talked about, to the states? You said you're going to pay 100% for the first 3 years, and then 90% after that.
Well, one of the ways that we're going to be paying for it is by keeping people healthier. James, one of the things that we did in that bill, which I am very pleased to have worked on quite hard, is double the number of community health centers in this country, which means that people will get access to the most cost-effective primary health care in this country. I think also as part of this great controversy about what happens for people who today don't have any health insurance, there will be, you can call it a tax, you can call it a penalty, but it exists in Romney's bill in Massachusetts. And what I think the government appropriately said, it's not my approach, I believe very much in a single-payer system, which would move in a very different direction. But right now, if you are 30 years of age and you have money and you don't have health insurance and you get hit by a bus, well, guess what, James? You and other people around this country who do have health insurance are going to pick up the cost of health care for that person. That's kind of freeloading, and it's really much, in my view, not what conservatives should be defending when they talk about personal responsibility. Other people should not have to pick up somebody else's health care costs, and that will bring in some revenue as well.
Okay. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour, a national town hall meeting with Senator Sanders taking your calls. More right after this. Check out Bernie's website, by the way, sanders.senate.gov, and you can drop by ours at thomhartmann.com. However you spell it, we'll get you there. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program.
Talk media for the sane among us. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls in our national town hall meeting. Bernie, you're still with us?
I'm right here.
Okay. Let's pick up a call here from Paul in San Francisco, listening on ThomHartmann.com. Hey, Paul, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello. Yes, I'm calling to ask about the Trans-Pacific Partnership treaty that's being negotiated in secret. My understanding, the information that I get, is that what this will do is basically give extraordinary rights to multinational corporations that will kind of override issues of national sovereignty and things like food labeling, labor rights, and so on and so forth. I was wondering what's your opinion about this?
Well, Paul, I share those concerns. You're talking to somebody who was in the House for 16 years and in the Senate for 5 years, and I don't believe I've ever voted for any of these trade agreements because I think for a variety of reasons they work primarily to benefit large corporations and not working families in this country or often in the other countries as well. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to be meeting with representatives of our trade office just to go over this issue. I spoke to our trade representative a couple of weeks ago. My own concern here is above and beyond everything that Paul said, which I think is all right on and relevant, is the issue of prescription drugs. One of the problems we have is what these trade agreements often do is make it harder for developing countries to get drugs through generics, and they force them to buy the brand name, which means a whole lot of profit for the drug companies, but a lot of unnecessary death and suffering for the poor people in those countries who often can't afford the high-cost prescription drugs. So that's one of the issues that we are going to be looking at. In that regard, we have done some work on AIDS. And the point is right now, generically, you can buy the AIDS cocktail, the most widely used AIDS cocktail called a tripla, generically for something like $250. In this country, if you were to purchase that product, it would cost you over $20,000. So the profit margin is enormous between the brand name and the generic, and that's one of the concerns that I have in this TPP agreement.
Robert in Northeast Maryland, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yeah, hi, Bernie. I was wondering, since that we're in, I don't know what's going on with Solyndra right now, but is there any way that we could open that up and start putting solar panels on the federal buildings that we own?
Well, I think, Robert, you're talking to the guy who introduced legislation called 10 million solar rooftops. My Republican friends and Fox TV like to point out all of the problems or the setbacks that we have seen in sustainable energy. And it turned out that Solyndra was selling a product that was not competitive. But the reality is that we're seeing an explosion in the use of solar panels in this country and around the world, creating a whole lot of new jobs. A lot of companies are doing quite well. So I believe absolutely that what we should be doing is investing very heavily in solar. Here in the state of Vermont, I work with the Vermont National Guard. They have the largest second largest solar installation in the state. They're saving about $250,000 a year on their electric bills. And we're seeing that kind of development all over America. The goal here is to make sure that these products are made in America to the degree that we can. But I think the more demand that we can create, the cheaper the cost will be. And those costs are already plummeting in the last few years. So I see a lot of potential in solar. And I would just conclude, many of my Republican friends, they believe in everything. They believed in solar, and they believe in wind, and they believe in coal, and they believe in oil. Don't believe it. They have worked very, very hard to make it difficult for us to renew energy tax credits for sustainable energy. And what you're really seeing to a significant degree is the fossil fuel industry fighting back furiously against sustainable energy.
Sharon in, is it Clupier, Iowa? Sharon?
Yes.
Hi. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, Senator. It's very nice to talk to you.
You too.
I have a question. In all the years that I worked, at times when, things got tight with the company and everything, our union and our workers were, asked to take concessions, less wages, less benefits, and that type of thing. And with the government and the state of the government right at this time, my question is, why are they not asked to take some concessions on their retirement packages, on their insurance packages, on their income? It seems to me that, the people that are out in this, the communities and everything that don't make that kind of money are having to pay for everything the same way they are, but they're not taking a hit on any of their benefits or wages or income.
Sharon, if I understand you correctly, I think what you're, and let me just tell you this, there has been a significant attack on federal wages and benefits. There has been a wage freeze for the last couple of years for most federal employees, and there are demands that they contribute a whole lot more to their pensions. But this is what I think, Sharon. I think that the folks who push that, who go around the country saying, well, if you're in the private sector, you're paying a whole lot for your health insurance. If you're in the private sector, you don't have a pension plan. If you're in the private sector, your wages may not be as good as public employees, and therefore what you have got to do is demand cutbacks for public employees. What that is about, Sharon, in my mind, is kind of a race to the bottom where they divide working people between public employees and private employees. The real issue is not that we should be cutting back on the wages and benefits of public employees, but that we should be significantly figuring out a way to raise wages and benefits for private sector employees. What's going on now, as I mentioned earlier, the people on top are doing phenomenally well, and there's nothing more that they want to see. And you're seeing this in Republican states. They want a war going on between private sector employees and public employees. Well, it's not that our public employees are getting rich. The reality is that almost all of the new income being created in recent years hasn't gone to public employees. Let me tell you that. It has gone to the top 1%. And what we have got to figure out is why, when productivity is increasing in the private sector and in the public sector, real wages are going down for both groups, while the people on top are making out like bandits. So I am not a fan of this concept of race to the bottom, that the public, the teachers or cops or firemen or state employees are just doing phenomenally well. We got to cut them. The answer is to understand why private sector people are leaving the middle class and entering the ranks of poverty, while the people on top are doing so well. So that's kind of my view on that, Sharon.
Marcus in Arcata, California. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking my call. And just to respond to what you were just saying, I find the public employees to be overstaffed and fat in their number. And to back that, I'm a solo remodeler, contractor, and I've been self-employed for about 30 years. I'm in my 50s. I'm in excellent condition and excellent health, and I've been taking care of myself the entire time. And I take full responsibility for that as well, as I look forward to in the future. And I'm curious if the health care means then that I have to buy an insurance policy that I probably won't use till I'm 95, 96.
Marcus, I'm sorry. Did you say that you won't use till you're 95 or 96?
What was your question, Marcus?
Marcus, you are. I'll tell you something. You are a very, very lucky guy because you are absolutely sure that you're not going to get sick and have to go to the doctor and have a hospital and have a heart attack or get hit by a bus until you're 95 or 96. You are a very, very, very fortunate guy. But this is what's going to happen, Marcus. If you leave your office today and you get hit by a bus and you end up in the hospital and the bill is $50,000 or $100,000, you know who's going to pay that bill for you, Marcus? If you don't have insurance, your neighbors are. People who are making $20,000 or $30,000 a year or $40,000 a year are going to have to pay your hospital bill because you got hit by the bus or because you had a heart attack or because you were diagnosed with cancer. I hope very much that you are right, and I hope that you live to 95 or 96 and you have no medical expenses. Maybe that will be the case. But you know what, Marcus? It may not be the case. So I think when you talk about personal responsibility, it's not just keeping yourself healthy. That's great. It is to understand that if you have an accident, if you are diagnosed with a serious disease, it is, in a sense, unfair for people who have less money than you are to have to pick up the cost of your health care. Now, I myself, as I've said before, I believe in a single-payer system where people contribute into funding for health care based on their ability to pay. That's my preference. But I am not a great fan of people who have the money saying what you just said is, hey, I don't want to pay, other people will pay for me. So we have a disagreement, Marcus.
And we'll see how this all plays out with Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act and everything else. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Bernie's taking your calls in our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie. Check out his website at sanders.senate.gov. You can check out ours over at thomhartmann.com. All kinds of great stuff there over at thomhartmann.com. We also have a new free app, an iPhone and iPad app. Watch the show.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archive.
Back with more of your calls for Senator Sanders right after this. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you and Senator Bernie Sanders. Pimmy in Sedalia, Missouri. You're on the air, and thank you for watching Free Speech TV.
Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Hartmann. And it is an honor to talk to you, Senator. I would like to give you so many kudos and thanks from everything from the Affordable Care Act to fighting the GMO labeling. You always fight the good fight.
Thank you very much.
I know I'm only, I need to just ask you really one thing. So how can just an average person like me, what can I do to help you and other senators to overturn the SCOTUS decision on Citizens United versus FEC? You know, I think it truly just undermines our republic. It threatens our democracy. And to say lastly, I sure hope to see Bernie Sanders for president in 2016.
I would vote for it.
Okay.
Thanks, Pimmy.
Tammy, thank you so much for your question, and you said it better than I can. This disastrous Citizens United decision, and I hope everybody understands what Tammy is talking about. 5 members of the Supreme Court decided 2 years ago that corporations are people. They're entitled to First Amendment rights to spend as much money as they want on campaigns. And the result of that has been that billionaires and millionaires are now pouring huge amounts of money into these campaigns against Obama, I understand that, Tom, you're going to have Sherrod Brown on next. Is that right?
Yeah, in the third hour, an hour and a half
Well,
from now.
Sherrod
Yeah.
will tell you what it means in one state, his state of Ohio, what that means.
Yeah.
But Tammy is exactly right in that this undermines what American democracy is supposed to be about. When all of us were growing up, what we understood democracy to be about, what people fought and died for, is majority rule. One person, one vote. You have a vote, I have a vote, sometimes I win, sometimes you win. What democracy now, according to the Supreme Court, is about is the freedom, quote unquote, of the Koch brothers or Mr. Adelson or other billionaires to spend unbelievable sums of money. Now, the Koch brothers say they're going to spend $400 million. I certainly would not be surprised if they end up spending more than that. And that means they can put money not into only defeating Obama, but they can put money into all kinds of states, 20 million here and 50 million here and 60 million there, and have an incredible influence with their negative ads on what happens politically. That's number one. But the other point I would say to Tammy is that, and people don't appreciate it, this is very intimidating for members of the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate who are sitting there. A vote comes up. Now, I will have fought and will continue to fight to break up the large banks in this country. You have the sixth largest financial institutions, have assets of 2/3 of the GDP in America. I think that that's wrong. I think it's dangerous. I think it leads us down the path to another bailout, to terrible concentration of ownership of wealth and power. Now, I want to break them up. I'm going to bring that bill to the floor. And you're going to find people who say, well, Sanders is probably right, but if I vote to break up these banks, they're going to spend a fortune on my campaign. I better not vote that way. I better not take on Monsanto and the big chemical companies if I'm concerned about genetically engineered food. Maybe I won't take on the prescription drug companies who are charging us the highest prices in the world. So this Citizens United not only allows big money to buy elections, it intimidates elected officials in a very significant way.
Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Back with more of your calls for the senator right after this.
Yesterday was Thursday. Today it is Friday. We so excited.
Welcome back. Anything Goes Friday comes up after Bernie's hour here. This is the Brunch with Bernie hour, our national town hall meeting on the Thom Hartmann Program. Mary in St. Paul, Minnesota. You're on the air with Bernie, with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Bernie. Senator Sanders. I wanted to talk about two things, but one is that I just wanted to address the statement of a couple people that called earlier and said that people who are government workers have way too many people working in the departments and that kind of thing. We have been cut over and over again. I work for the health department of the city, and we get cut every year. We have to cut down this year you have to cut down by 10%, then next year another 10%. We are operating on a skeleton crew right now. And not only that, but they talk about wages and benefits. But when you compare that to the private sector, when you take the management and compare the management, our manager of the whole Department of Public Health makes about $140,000 a year. That's compared to $38,000 an hour that the CEO of United Health was making 5 years ago. I don't know how much he makes now. But that's not even a comparison. So the management is making way more money in the private sector.
Right.
And even if we were making more money, the people at the bottom of the government were making a little bit more money than the people in the private sector. Once you could include management in there, it's crazy. But I also wanted to ask you, is there more to it, the costs for the Obamacare? You mentioned the community centers.
Yeah. Well, yes, the goal. Let's back it up and understand, Mary, that we have the most expensive and wasteful healthcare system in the entire world. Approximately 30% of every healthcare dollar goes to administration, goes to bureaucracy, goes to profiteering, and so forth. While Obamacare does not go anywhere near as far as I would like, it does create a more cost-effective system. The second point, and this really seems to be strange, but it's true, is when you provide health care to people, in many instances, that person will end up spending less because we're keeping them healthy. We put billions of dollars in that bill to disease prevention, to efforts to make sure that young kids are not into alcohol, they're not into smoking, they're not into drugs, which ends up resulting not only in human suffering, but in expensive health care. So I think what we have done in a variety of ways, and let me repeat again, I believe in a single-payer system. I would go in a very different direction than where Obamacare went. But I think if you look at the effort we made into disease prevention, community health centers, the efforts that we made to make sure that people are not going to be denied insurance because of pre-existing conditions, the fact that young people, 26 or younger, can stay on their parents' plan, the fact that there will be a cap on the amount of money that people have to pay for insurance, no matter what their illness. All in all, this bill is a step forward, not to mention expanding Medicaid to 30 million more people.
Okay. Let's see here. Matt in St. Louis, Missouri. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders, on the subject of the war on drugs, do you see value in using marijuana as medicine to treat sick Americans?
I think there is, not an expert on this, Matt, but I think there is some evidence to suggest that people who are experiencing severe pain get some relief by smoking marijuana. So do I support the idea of marijuana being used for legitimate medical purposes? I do.
Dan in Palmdale, California. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes. I just wanted to maybe help clarify the issue on the high cost of medications. In part, the Honorable Sanders is perfectly correct. However, different countries have different FDAs. The FDA here in this country is very strict. So the Canadian, for example, FDA may be a little less strict or have different policies. So
nope.
Drugs that
come
in from Canada.
Go ahead, Bernie.
I didn't mean to interrupt, Dan, but it has nothing to do with the FDA. The reason that prescription drugs are much less expensive in other countries is when you have a national health care system, whatever it may be, the English system is different than the Canadian system, the government negotiates prices with the drug companies. In America today, Dan, you walk into a drugstore, the price of your medicine could have doubled, and no one says anything. The company could double it, can triple it, and that sometimes happens. So companies can charge as much as they want, and they do. But if you are in any country that has a national health care system, the system itself negotiates with the drug companies and negotiates prices that are far less expensive than here in the United States of America. And I think I've told this story before, how a number of years ago when I was in the House, I took over a busload of working-class women who were dealing with breast cancer here in the state of Vermont. We went to Montreal, Canada, and they bought the drug that they needed, which was a drug called tamoxifen, for 1/10 of the price that they were buying it here in the United States. 1/10 of the price. That was then. I think it's changed somewhat since. But all over the world, the same drugs that people are taking, brand-name drugs that people are taking in the United States today, sell for a fraction of that price in Europe. And that's because they negotiate prices with the drug companies. Here, drug companies can charge you any price they want.
Bernie, we have a little less than a half a minute to wrap up this hour. Thoughts on the week and the future?
Well, I think obviously the presidential election and elections all over the country are becoming hot and heavy. And I hope people do not, very often the media gets into gossip and this person said this or that. Stay on the issues. Remember where we were, and again, I've been critical of Obama on this show in many places in many ways. But remember where we were when Bush left office. 700,000 jobs being lost a month, and we're on the verge of an international financial collapse. I think it's important to pay attention to the real issues, that is the need to create jobs, the need to defend Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, the need to reverse global warming. Let's stay focused on the real issues and demand that politicians talk to those issues.
Thank you. Bernie, thanks again so much for being with us this week.
My pleasure. Take care.
We'll be back. And don't forget to check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov. Coming up next, Anything Goes Friday. And in our third hour, Sherrod Brown will be with us.